is live at local morning radio, coming to you from the studios of Magic Broadcasting on Laird. This is the Kramer Show. This is the Kramer Show. The phone is now open, and the phone operators are standing by. Turn down your radio when you call. Pay attention and be ready to go. 850-233-9988.
Let's do a show! Let's do a show right now. What are we doing?
This is Kramer. Kramer.
All right, it's time to do this thing. Scott Major is with us. Scott Major of Major Paruas and the Storm Help Team, stormhelpteam.org. Sir, good morning and greetings and salutations and hugs and donuts. Hello, good morning.
How you doing, pal?
Super duper good. How are you? What's been going on?
I'm fantastic. No complaints, my friend.
You staying busy as busy can get?
Absolutely. Fighting all of the people who won't pay insurance proceeds, as well as continuing in the conservative bend of opinion.
How long is this going to go on? I mean, like, I had this is very interesting. I had a guy, our second guy, actually maybe the third guy, really, to come out and look at our windows. And he was just as nice as he could be. He said that his company is in Pensacola, but he's over here. And he according to him, he said he didn't really need the money. He just wanted to help out. And he comes over and gives people estimates on their windows. And he was telling me, because I was interested, I said, so what are you hearing when you go out to other customers, when you talk to them? And he goes, I hear a lot of insurance companies denying windows. He goes, he said in this storm, everybody is looking at the roofs. The roof's this, the roof's that, the roof. But he goes, they're not paying any attention to doors, and they're not paying attention to windows. And he goes, I cannot tell you how many times I go and give an estimate. He said, I make it look nice and pretty. We send it to the insurance company, and the insurance company denies. And so then he has to come back in, and then he has to file up another report. He has to get it certified. He was telling me all the stuff. So there does seem to be still this major blowback, pushback with the insurance companies and certain things that people are claiming, and they're not getting paid.
Absolutely right. And as I mentioned, some 4 months ago when you and I started talking, I told you that windows were a huge problem for people because they look fine. A lot of them are operable, but they are clearly and absolutely compromised by the storm. And, for the insurance companies, when they deny these claims based on windows, a lot of people think, well, my windows work, so maybe that's not such a reasonable denial. Till a year from now, when the windows start leaking or they don't open properly, and there's other kinds of problems, and then they go and try to make a claim, and the insurance company says, well, you should have made a claim 18 months ago. You should have made a claim back when that was the hurricane problem. It's not caused by the hurricane. Then you have a whole new set of problems. I see this in virtually every storm that I've covered for 15, 20 years or so. I can tell you that you see that all the time. And I tell people all the time, always have your windows checked. If you're a listener, no matter what kind of property you have, you're suffering from 155, 160 mile-an-hour winds with gusts higher. There is no window system in America that is truly designed for that except for military operations. And so the reality is you want to have them checked. And if you have them checked by the proper engineers or window experts, you'll find that most of them are in need of some repair or replacement. And you want to do that under this insurance policy.
The same person was telling me that he was showing me my particular windows. He said, do you see this little piece of metal in between the panels? And, you really have to look closely. And I got right there, and I go, yeah, I see that. And he was telling me about the windows and how they're built and what these particular windows do and what they can withstand. And he goes, yours, these seem to be okay. but there are a lot of your neighbors that it's compromised. And he said they may not fog up now, but, give it 3 months, 9 months, whatever. And a lot of your neighbors are likely going to have windows that are faulty that will fog up because they didn't have me come out and look. So back to your point, if you don't get your windows looked at, there's a high probability that in the months to come, you'll see that there is damage to the windows that you probably don't initially see.
Yeah, just imagine that your window is sitting inside of some sort of framing, whether that's done by screws or otherwise, and then you were to push on that window from the outside, go outside and push on your window for an hour or 2 hours with 150 pounds of pressure or 150 mile an hour wind pressure, you're going to find that window is going to move back and forth. The seal is not going to be left uncompromised. And you have to understand that with those kinds of violent winds, we see it all the time. Screws are slightly bent. Water can intrude. And again, it's a erosive process. It's not something where your window's completely broken. Some people's were. But most of the time, it's a compromised situation. And I try to use the example to tell people, take a paper clip, bend it 6 times back and forth, and then keep using it. How long will it be before that paper clip will be compromised? It'll never be the same. Maybe you won't break it if you bend it a bunch of times, but you know that integrity's compromised. It's the identical situation. You're putting negative and positive pressures on that window moving back and forth. There is no chance that window is going to be safe in the future or not compromised in some way. And people misunderstand and say, well, I've got impact windows or I have strong windows. The purpose of impact windows is really to withstand wind forces, but it's more about debris. Yes, the wind forces are helpful, but it's more to keep your window from shattering when something hits it. And that's the concept of having stronger based windows. That's why they call them impact windows as opposed to wind resistant windows. And so you just have to understand that, and that's one of the most common of all in the last 15 years or so that I've seen these kinds of window systems. That's the most common overlooked problem, the most common non-paid event, and the most common problem that comes back to bite people later on, trying to fight to prove why a year or two ago the storm really was the cause of those windows.
Yeah, the same guy said that, windows are made to breathe a little bit, where you come out just a little bit, a couple of millimeters breathing and a little bit of give and take. But he said that no window is, able to breathe to the point that he said he was describing the pressure. And he was telling me all about the stuff. I really got a good lesson from our window guy. But you know what? Your analogy would also... you could make the same analogy for the insurance company. You got to keep on, keeping on, and bending until eventually you win that fight with the insurance company. It just seems like so many people are having to go. You always say, be patient. Be nice, be persistent, but you got to be patient. Because there is an end game, eventually, if your eye is on the prize, you will eventually get it, correct?
Yes. Step one, has the insurance company done an estimate for you? If so, what is the amount of money the insurance company has said you're owed? Even if you disagree, let's say it's $50,000. Have they paid it? No. Report them to the state for bad faith. If not, okay. And they haven't done an estimate, where's your estimate? What does your estimate say? If you don't have an estimate, you need your own estimate. Send it to the insurance company. If they don't pay without reason or excuse, without explanation, report them. Tragically, this thing is a problem. And if you don't take affirmative action, you're going to get, nothing, or you're going to get less than you deserve. And candidly, these kinds of people like me who are trying to fight for vendors are being punished out there too. You should see how I get blacklisted on the internet and how I have problems because, they won't let me post hurricane-related videos and I can't post anything that's anti-insurance because it gets flagged. That's
what?
A big, giant crusade against people like us who are trying to help individual residents. Unbelievable.
Now, say again. You get flagged because you're. Say again.
Yes, I have spent. It takes 4 days sometimes to post your radio show onto my website because they think that the radio show is somehow educating people in a way that's unfair to insurance companies, and therefore, you're doing something evil and wrong, and that's against the policy of the internet. And so, God forbid you should be able to do that. So it's amazing when I even do something simple as trying to post your radio shows to help people to be able to have an outlet. So there is a larger, problem here. But we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop doing this, and we're not going to stop educating people. But back to what's most important, if you continue to make sure that you're pressing the insurance company and asking them why they're not paying you what they agree or what you agree, you're going to be able to win if you keep doing that. If you don't, you're not. No matter whether you have a public adjuster or a lawyer or whatever, what is happening with your claim is really, really important. Now, sometimes you need estimates. Like a lot of clients have called us, and they don't even have their own estimates because they were waiting on the insurance company. So you have to go out there and do estimates. But once you get your estimates, you get those demands in, you start that conversation, and if they don't pay, you sue them. You file those suits. 627.428 says they have to start paying my attorney's fees, and boy, they will wake up and they will smell the coffee.
I like the way you look at this. You're saying sue when it really needs to be done, not just for the hell of it, and that's what I like about Scott. I mean, Scott's tenacious, and he will not stop, and he'll try every avenue to get, he also explains often how to interact with the insurance companies. And it's not about, hey, I didn't get paid, let's go sue, hell with them. If you don't get paid and you file everything you're supposed to file, they still will wait, and you'll find that after you get Scott Major involved, that things get sped up a little bit. And we're having awful problems around here. I think both residentially and commercial, both at the same time. There's just so many people that are waiting. And here's another technique that I want you to talk about is the technique that the insurance companies use by giving you just little drips here and there. Oh, here's a $500 check. I mean, I know that we owe you $50,000. But here's a $500 check that won't even, really take care of removing a tree from your lawn. That seems to be happening around here often as well.
Probably the most common thing you'll find in insurance claims is insurance companies paying you some portion of your claim and closing it, and then reporting to the OIR, hey, listen, we closed your claim. Look at how good a job we're doing. We're wonderful and we're great. I mean, the reality is that if there is a valid estimate by the insurance company that says how much money they're supposed to pay all of it. They're supposed to pay it promptly. They're supposed to pay it within 90 days, unless they have a specific explanation that they can justify that it was for reasons beyond their control. And I'll tell you that you just don't see that because, as you all and we all have talked about, this is a new thing for this area, and people don't realize what the laws are. You and I have talked almost weekly about that statutes that nobody's ever heard of. Even lawyers don't know the statutes and some of the controls and protections. So the insurance companies are doing this when they simply should honor their agreement. Listen, there are some insurance companies that pay, and great, let's celebrate them. Fantastic. But the ones that don't, and there are many of them that don't, they often don't, even though they have valid estimates. Some of them don't have all the data. Some of it's on the residents and the business owners because you don't have a sufficient estimate with all the pictures or engineering reports that show that you have structural damage or whatever it is. But I'll tell you that you will find that when you support your damages, when you're on the phone with the adjuster, when you're either writing them or you're suing, you're going to get results. And just think about it. If they don't pay, what's your option? Do nothing or take more affirmative action. When the insurance company owes you $100,000 and they realize they might spend $100,000 additionally in attorney's fees, they might think about paying you. Hate to do that. Wish we didn't have to sue. Wish we could make a phone call and get it done. But it doesn't work that way. So since it doesn't work that way, we have to use the system that was designed to protect individuals and to help encourage insurance companies and other major companies to do the right thing. And the right thing is you need to pay, or there's a consequence to that. The consequence can't be I have to pay and then you have to deduct your attorney's fees. The consequence has to be you're going to have to pay attorney's fees, you're going to have to pay our attorney's fees, and then you may have to pay 2 or 3 times or 4 or 5 or 6 times the amount of money for waiting and allowing me or forcing me to live in my tent or RV in front of my house for 4 months. There has to be a consequence to that. You get enough people behind you, you stand up strong. We fight for those people. We're going to get results. We're going to rebuild our city, and we're going to teach people a lesson who think they can abuse the system and manipulate it in a way that's harmful to our residents. I'm not going to stand for that.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back with some phones. 850-233-9988. You got Scott Major for a complete hour this morning. Take advantage of his wisdom. 850-233-9988. We'll be right back.
More Kramer coming up. Oh, and if you're thinking of making a complaint call to management right now, don't bother. His dad owns the station. News Talk at 101.
What are you stopping for? Do I make myself clear?
Hey, I love the radio.
I never heard of that.
Back to the most listened to morning show on the Panhandle. This is the Kramer Show on News Talk at 101.
724, back with Scott Major from Major Paruas and the Storm Help Team. You can light them up, 850-233-9988. Jason, you're up with Scott Major. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
How you doing today?
Jason, you're up. Go ahead.
Okay, yes. We got the roof done. Had some roofers from Louisiana come and do it. They wanted $15,000 for the roof. Required $1,000 down, told us to pay them the rest whenever we got the insurance check. So they did the roof, did a fine job. First time it rained, it leaked on the skylight a little bit. We've reached out to them several times, and they will not return the phone call. Now, mind you, we've only paid them $1,000 down. We haven't paid them the entire $15,000 for the roof. At what point do we need to write them a letter and say, hey, do you want your money, or are you doing it for $1,000, or what? You know what I'm saying?
Step one, thank you for your call. Step one, get an expert roofer out there and have them look at your roof and see whether or not there are any additional damages that need to be repaired or whether or not it's just a minor problem. If it's something that can be fixed rather easily, then you can contact the roofing company and say you have, in writing, and say you have 15 days to come out and fix it. Otherwise, you will not receive any more money. If it is something substantial, then you can write them and tell them that it is so substantial that the defect is impossible to fix, and if they don't come out and redo the following items that are on this list, that you will terminate the contract and report them. And in my opinion, the best thing to do is once you do that, you'll be able to understand whether or not this company can do the job or somebody else can. If you have problems finding roofers, you certainly offline can call 844-800-LAWS and give you some recommendations. Or if you have your favorite roofer that is another competitive local roofer, you can have them come out. But that's what I would do.
And so just have another roofer come and do kind of a basic inspection or whatever, see what's right and what's wrong, then write them a letter. I mean, the company was based out of Louisiana. They have a franchise here in Florida or something like that. And can we do it like a certified letter?
Yes, you can do it. You can do it by email if you want with return receipt, or you can go ahead and just write them, formally if you want. But the key is to write them and to tell them, I've had another inspection come out. Here's the damages. This is what I need fixed, or it's so substantial, and give them a chance to come out by writing them and saying you have X days to come out and fix that. So when they don't, you at least have a documented situation where you've given them an opportunity to correct it, and then you had to get another roofer involved. You get another roofer involved, and you'll pay that roofer.
10-4. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Y'all take it easy.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, man. 850-233-9988. I'm sure that there's a good amount of shoddy work that's being done. Not to just slam anybody that does contract work, but I'm sure that it does happen. People maybe they get into a rush or whatever. In that instant, though, in his particular case, if he doesn't, I mean, how does that work contractually? I mean, is he still going to be on the hook for that, even though maybe there's damage still there?
Number of different issues. The first issue is whenever you are contracting with a vendor, every listener out there, make sure in your contract you have written specific language out that says that they have a time certain to complete that roof or that structure or that building. And that for every day they don't complete it, there's a $100 a day penalty or whatever the number is. Number two, if you want to hold back money, you can have retainage. That is, you can say at the end of the job, you need to get inspected and get a CO, a certificate of occupancy, or get your permits cleared, however you want to word that, to make sure that these people have completed jobs in a way that there are no problems. And you can have a holdback and say, we'll pay you, make your final payment 10 days afterward or after the first rainstorm or whatever you want, so that if there are problems, you have some retainage held back just to make sure the roof is quality roof. Or you can have your neighborhood roofer come by and check it out if you think there are problems. But it's very important contractually to do that, because if you have a contract that doesn't have any kind of protections, then you're in a fight. And sometimes if you have a roofing contractor and you haven't paid them any money, or you've only paid them a little bit, or a general contractor, and they have a contract that provides for them to get attorney's fees if they sue you, you can end up being in a situation where you owe more money than the job is even worth. That's why it's so important these contracts, don't just sign them.
All right, got to take a break here at the bottom. Phones are open for you, 850-233-9988. Scott Major, Major Paruas. Half an hour left. Light them up.
This is Kramer. News Talk at 101. This is the Kramer Show. News Talk at 101.
All right, we're back with Scott Major. Scott Major of Major Paruas and the Storm Help Team. You can go to stormhelpteam.org. You can call him off the air at 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS. Somebody just, I think it was Thursday or Friday, called and said, I heard you say to call Scott Major. What was her name? It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, she said she had a problem and she called you, and she said he really does mean it when he says call him and that he'll help you. And she was going on and on and on about how she loved you and that she called and she actually got you and you sat down, you helped her. So I know that you're out. I know you're doing that, Scott, and I want to say thank you for the audience.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I really do, because we are really trying, Kramer, to help people. And you know, and I know that I constantly say to you on and off air, am I making a difference? Do you think that I'm positively affecting people, whether or not these people employ our services or not? I think we've helped hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have called. Even though we didn't necessarily, get retained for the services. And I really hope that I'm making an impact on this in a bigger, more profound way.
Well, I think, too, it's also kind of, we had Deb from Gambrel and Sturgis on one day, and then we had another PA, and they got questions on the air, and they just said, that's not my field. You should call Scott Major. And we just, on their show gave out 844-800-LAWS. So it is happening, and people are listening to you, and people know. I think they're getting a sense that they can trust you, and that it's not just, BS for the show. Our phone number is 850-233-9988, 850-233-9988. Let's skip to Earl. Earl, you're up with Scott Major. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Major. This is kind of a sideways question, but it's something you said a while ago, that you're being slow-walked putting shows on YouTube or blocked. And I'm listening to you talk about the insurance companies underpaying and slow paying. My question is this. In all of your travels, is this possibly a way to keep real estate prices down The people that have just barely go make enough to pay off their mortgages, maybe make a 5% profit, keep that down, and the bigger money come in and buy up everything and just force everybody basically to leave.
Well, there's a lot of thoughts about how the ways in which post-hurricane relief is handled and whether there are ulterior motives or conspiratorial type of approaches to the way in which repairs are made. What I can tell you is I think that the way the system is set up, the way that you have insurance companies controlling the money under contract and consumers like you, like me, who may not be as educated about how to work that system, it ends up having a lot of unintended consequences in that if we don't go and get our money, the properties aren't fixed, people can't, pay their rents and can't afford things, foreclosures happen, tourism goes down, all kinds of implications happen, which is why, in my opinion, it is so important to band together, to get groups of people, to get your entire neighborhood, to make sure they have gotten people like me involved to put the pressure on the insurance companies to pay. It wouldn't really matter if they're blocking me from posting Kramer's radio show if, in fact, I had 10,000 claims against the insurance companies and they were paying. I wouldn't need to post anything.
No.
Is trying to get people.
You're a man of power. You have power. You have authority. You know what's going on. Is what I'm getting at. If they can block you, what are they doing to the rest of the people who don't have your education and say your finances or however you do it? You have power.
You're right, and I'll tell you that's why Kramer and I have been talking for nearly 4 months about how this duping is going on. Of you don't need a lawyer and just wait. And these people are getting crushed emotionally, financially, spiritually because they haven't gotten the money to fix their property. Or when they get their money, they don't realize that they don't have enough money because they didn't get the proper insurance. More of this is about the power of education and the power of banding together and getting as much money as we can for everybody as quickly as we can to minimize what is in reality a nightmare and to try to balm the wound of how difficult this is on people and how it's going to affect your tourism industry in the coming months and years as you try to rebuild. So what I can tell you is that I think the key to minimize the impact to all of you is to try to get people like me and other intelligent people who are aggressive to get out there and get as much money as possible, as quick as possible. Because what happens is, so that you know, is that once I start winning, I continue to win in a steamroller fashion. Because what happens with the insurance company is once you start beating them 2, 3, 10, 100, 1,000 times, they start wanting to pay because it's more expensive than to litigate with you. So safety in numbers does work. And we can overcome some of these problems that are associated with all of the other situations that you're describing by trying to get as many people as possible to get the experts involved to either file suits or make aggressive positions and try to get you all the money you can as soon as we can to minimize the potential harm.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great day, pal.
Thank you, Earl. We'll skip on over to Grant. Grant, you're up with Scott Major.
Good morning, Kramer and Scott. How are y'all?
Super.
Great, pal. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Actually, Kramer, the person you were talking about that called last week while you had Terra Talk going was myself.
Yes.
I was the one that called and said that I called Scott's office and called the 1-800 number and actually got him on the phone, and he was in Hollywood, Florida, he told me at the time. But he was willing to take the time and talk with me, and we were setting up my mother-in-law's residence because she was having issues with her contractor and her insurance company. And Scott has said he's willing to sit down with us. I have not had a chance to call back and confirm with him because my father-in-law passed away since that conversation.
Sorry to hear
so
that.
Everything's kind of on hold right now until we get his affairs taken care of, and then we were going to sit down with Mr. Majors or his associates and work the claim. But he was very gracious on the phone. very understanding, and educated me and taught me through what his process is, what he wants to do, how he wants to handle things, and I felt very comfortable and very positive at the end of our conversation.
That's really, really kind of you, and I tell you what, it warms my heart to know that I'm actually making a difference in people's lives and that your education, is powerful to you, and I certainly hope that I can continue to help the entire city rebuild, and I'm totally committed to that.
Well, Mr. Scott, it's not just the city of Panama City and that area. You're affecting the whole panhandle. I live in Marietta. My mother-in-law is in Marietta, and we, even up there, took a major hit and are trying to get ourselves rebuilt and rebuild basically the whole panhandle.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. It's very kind of you. And what I would encourage you to do is share it with all your neighbors, friends, churchgoers, and businesses so that we can band together and get as many people to put as much pressure on the insurance companies to simply honor their contracts. Because the more we do that, the higher likelihood we have of global and larger payments to more people to help you guys rebuild as soon as you possibly can.
And if we don't get rebuilt soon, then like you said, it's a trickle-down effect. It affects the economy, it affects the region, and it's a long-term problem.
You're absolutely right. And I will tell you, having seen this in all levels, both in Florida, New York, Louisiana, all these other places, when this happens, it has a profound effect, not only from an economic standpoint, but from an emotional standpoint, from a frustration, a stress standpoint, from increased crime and suicides and other things. It is a profound thing for us to make sure we get as much rebuilding as we can, as fast as we can. And I'll tell you, it's people like you who have the courage to call up and thank people like me to let other people know that we are the real deal and that we are really trying to help people. And I greatly appreciate the fact that you took the time to call up and let people know that we're making a difference, and this is the way to do it.
Yes, sir, and I appreciate everything you've done for our area and the fact that you may not live here full-time, but you do care about us.
Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. You have a great day.
Thank you, Grant. I appreciate it, and thank you for
sir,
listening,
Kramer.
man. Appreciate it very much. I know that, you mentioned the word stress. I know that a lot of people around here, when you're having to deal with it, with rebuilding your life from the ground up a lot of times, you're talking about, I get people all the time that call the show that somebody put a lien on their house or did this or that. Now they got to get a lawyer involved. There's a certain amount of stress involved within just doing that. So, and I think you and the way you're talking plainly, but with tenacity, I think is really important right now because it kind of relieves people a little bit.
Yeah. I'm not sure that people have as good an outlet as they do through you, Kramer, in that you've been a voice not only of reason, but of inspiration to people. And I think that these kinds of messages we've tried to carry over the months, not just hearing it once, but hearing it over and over again and hearing every possible question known to man being asked and us having an answer, I think balms the wound a little bit for the people and gives them hope and lets them know that if you don't have your claim completely paid for, whether that's because of an insurance person or a bad vendor or something like that, that there are people out there that are truly dedicated to trying to help you and that are there even if you want them to educate you. If I had $1 for the hundreds of people who have called me, not using my services, but just picking my brain and getting information, I certainly would have a whole lot of money. So there's a lot of value in doing that, and I think you with your leadership position and the fact that you get out to all the listeners in the morning, I think is really profound. I think it's significant. I think you feel it. And I think there's a joy that you and I have about feeling like we're making a difference, whether that's big or small. We feel like, we're making a difference in a very difficult situation where there are insurance companies that control the purse strings, that control our happiness, that control our lives. We're trying to make a difference in educating people. And I think it's working. And I think the more people we can get banded together, I think the faster it will work.
Yeah, I also think, too, over the past 4 months talking to you, that sometimes it's not necessarily about, a lawsuit going to court and going the whole distance. It's more about getting somebody that knows what he's doing on your end. And just the threat of that seems to unclog the system and get kind of things moving sometimes. I think that's the key.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that sometimes we've found that people, when we get involved, they immediately make payments. I just had a situation yesterday where somebody hired us just 2 days ago, and they weren't being paid all of their loss of use payments. And then as soon as we got on board, all of a sudden, magically, the loss of use payments started coming back in again. And you know, so they're not dumb on the insurance side. They know what it costs, and they know what when a lawyer gets involved, you know, when suits are filed, money starts, you know, being a lot more expensive for them to hold on to, because they're going to have to pay their own lawyer. They're probably going to have to pay your lawyer, and then they have to pay the claim. And tragic as that may be, that's a sufficient motivator to get their attention. And we're in a situation where, you know, we have to use the available tools for us in the nicest way possible to get everybody fully paid.
And if that's what you got to do, then why would you not pick up the phone, you know, and do that? 850-233-9988 to get on the air, to contact Scott and his office off the air after the show, 844-800-LAWS. 844-800-LAWS. That's another thing, too, is, and, you know, bears mentioning, if you have a group like, you know, a church or an organization or, you know, you're a condo board association, you can pick up the phone and call Scott and get him to come out and educate everybody. And it's really important. And he said it before, power in numbers, 844-800-LAWS. Is that something that you do on a regular basis during the aftermath of a storm like Michael?
Absolutely. And, you know, I've done, I don't know how many dozens or hundreds of speeches throughout my career on various topics, but certainly when it comes to this specific type of thing, knowledge is power. And I'll tell you that, as you and I mentioned, if you're in a neighborhood and your claim is existing and you have 5 neighbors, 500 neighbors, and you see their roofs are not repaired or their walls are not repaired and they're waiting, well, you should go down the street and talk to them and say, let's all get together, because if I get your claim paid for in full, then it's going to be hard for the next insurance company that's next door to you to say 50 feet away, the winds were completely different or the roof system was completely different. And I think that is critical to remind people. You and I do this, but it's critical to remind them, because that is powerful. And that is hard for an insurance company to make excuses up when you have 6 or 60 people in a particular area that have had the exact same sorts of damage occur to them, even if their homes are different in the way they look.
All right, we'll take a break. Do you have a question for Scott Major? 850-233-9988. 850-233-9988. Also, you can go to stormhelpteam.org. We'll be right back with Scott. Stand by.
Trying to suck less and less every day.
Ooh, you suck.
More of The Kramer Show coming up next on NewsTalk at 101.
Merry Christmas. It's getting kind of hectic. Hey, yeah. Huh? That is Heavy D and the Boys. How about that? Boom. Am I right or wrong? I think that was...
Snap.
Oh, it was Snap.
Snap.
Was that 1992? Boy, that's flashback from the top 40 days right there. That was a good song.
That was a good song.
Scott Major is with us. You know, Rachel comes in this morning and she goes, hey, have you heard anything on the shirts from Scott Major? And I said, no. And she goes, well, I don't think we got them. I don't think the front has seen a box or anything. So during the break, I pick up and I go, hey, because Scott got, you know, in his description of how you should interact with insurance companies, he always says at the end, love and kisses you. And so I started picking up on that. And, you know, then it kind of became a thing on the show. And you'll hear it from time to time. Anyway, we thought it was funny. And Scott made up T-shirts that say love and kisses you on the shirt. And we even have given out some on the air. So I pick up during the break and I ask him, I go, hey, what's up with the shirts? Now, here's what he tells me. I'm going to let him tell you. Listen to how funny this is.
So, we were trying to find where the shirts are, and we get a call from somebody who says, we got these weird shirts, and we need to send them back to you. This is like yesterday or whatever it is. What are they? Well, these Love and Kisses shirts, and we're not a member of that cult, and so we want to send the shirts back to you. And he said, what is that? I go, oh, yeah, it's a cult.
A
culture
cult.
of love. It's a culture of love and power and empowerment. And I said, you should go to those seminars. They're amazing. So they overnighted them back to us. We supposedly got them this morning, or like the FedEx, whatever you call that notification says, they got this morning, so we're going to overnight them back to you. But I guess the T-shirt company had interposed one number or reversed some number and sent them to some warehouse facility or something, maybe 2 blocks from you or something like that. And I guess they sent them back rather than send them over to you, sending them over there. But I just thought it was hilarious that they called up and they were inquiring how they could get into that wonderful cult.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to join a cult, one that says Love and Kisses You, that might be one that you want to, look into.
Powerful thing. See, it's catching on. Yeah. Everybody, all over the state, all over the country. Soon you'll have like Justin Timberlake and everybody else, tweeting out, at Love and Kisses You.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be powerful.
Yeah, we're going to make the hashtag Love and Kisses You today. Can we do that? Because I don't know. I just recently got right back on Twitter, and I should send that out today and see if we can get people to kind of forward that around. That'd be hilarious. So eventually, I mean, if we get the shirts, let's see, today, maybe on Thursday we can give away some more shirts, and per when you call up and get on the air. Parting words today. Obviously, to call and contact you if there is a question. If there is something going on, if you're getting pushed around by the insurance company or the mortgage company, definitely call Scott Major and the team. 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS, and the website is stormhelpteam.org. And like that, Mr. Major, another hour on the books.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Always impressed by the fact that you're championing the rights of these residents and business owners there, and congratulations to you, and let's keep the message going.
All right, take care. Love and Kisses us. Right back at you. Thank you so much, Scott.
Hey, be well, pal. You take care.
See you later.
Yeah.
This man, he is the king.
The Kramer Show will be back on NewsTalk at 101.